This reviewer discussion was recorded during the 2023 WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes. Without the labor of the writers and actors currently on strike, the works being covered here wouldn't exist. We fully support both the WGA and SAG-AFTRA in their fight for fair treatment and compensation against a system that continually denies them such. While a full boycott has not been called for, SAG-AFTRA has asked that everyone who does media about film and TV refrain from promoting struck content during this time. From what we can tell based on guidelines released, independent reviews do not constitute promotion of work, but critical assessment of a work of art. Any praise we give to these works should be seen purely as praise for the artists, writers, and actors who created it. If anything, the praise is emphasizing that the writers, actors, and other artists deserve more compensation because they are who make these works and our subsequent discussions possible. Additionally, this recording was not made using any studio-provided screeners or material. Do not support any studios during the strike.
Good evening, Agents McClure, Iliopolis, and Woody. 7 years ago, you made a choice that affected your lives for mostly the better, but a choice nonetheless to leave your old life behind and to join the Fake Nerd podcast to talk about movies, record shows, and also a whole bunch of other cool stuff in between. To remind you of your choice, you decided to take one of your very own and force him to watch not only all the Mission Impossible films, but finally to have him sit down and see Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to force him to sit down once more and talk about the latest film starring Tom Cruise. This mission will self-destruct in 5 seconds.
Oh shit!
Run!
It's not enough time.
I'm gonna throw my glasses right at the screen.
Oh, he took himself out of here instead of bringing back his camera.
Hey guys, how's it going? I hope I'm not late.
Hey Ben, what's up? You just missed a mysterious man talking to us. Don't worry about it, though.
Oh no, mysterious man. I guess I should have oh damn it. I guess I should have masked a voice or something. Or there's hey, what's up guys? We're here. We are talking about Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, aka MI7. I am Ben Magnet, and I am joined by the guys who essentially put a gun to my head. No, they didn't. They were more than happy to show me.
You love it. You're happy to be here.
I am so happy to be here, guys. Oh my god. I am, of course, with my bros, Brandon T. and McClure.
I accept.
Sparkz Witty.
I like Agent Witty. It's good. It's good.
And of course, last but certainly not least, Mr. Ryan Iliopolis.
Yo, it's Agent E. What'd it be?
Yeah, would it be indeed?
So Ben, if I may take the baton from you for a minute,
Take it.
This is our first movie review since the SAG-AFTRA strike, and I felt it was necessary to say up top. You've already seen the disclaimer. We've already heard the disclaimer. It is there, but just to reiterate, a full boycott of movies and TV shows have not been called by the unions. We are in full support of the unions. We are not doing this in support of the studio. We are doing this in the support of the people who made Mission Impossible 7, the directors, the writers, the actors who made this movie possible. We are not here to support Paramount. We are here to support Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise.
That's true.
Yep.
And Haley Atwell, Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Ving Rhames, and the entire cast.
Sparkz, do you have anything? You look like you're about to say something?
I would only add the point of the disclaimer stuff, and we don't need to do this every time because that's why the disclaimer is there. But we are not paid,
Nope.
Or in relation with the studios, which is the important thing of reviews as promotion. If you have a relationship, obviously we're very tiny and we don't, and we wouldn't be doing it if we did. So it works out for us.
Absolutely.
But like Sparkz said, the disclaimer is there. Will be there until the strikes are over. So, but let's get right into it because we are here to talk about Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Sorry, real quick. Also, just as usual, every time you'll hear the disclaimer and the links to support are in the description.
Yes. Directed by Christopher McQuarrie, once again, and written by Christopher McQuarrie and Erik This one's a little weird. Jendresen, I think is how you pronounce his last name.
Cool name.
This is his first time working on the Mission Impossible films. Good get for him. So, what do we think of this one. Ben, since you're new to the Mission Impossible franchise, this is your first new one.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think?
Damn, I should have been seeing these in theaters the whole time.
Baby.
Oh my god! I'm not gonna lie. Obviously it says the film says part 1. We'll get into it in the review, but what a ride! What an absolute ride! And honestly, I kind of feel what Henry Cavill was saying in the last movie. Was like, how many times has Hunt's government disavowed him, betrayed him, doing all this horrible things to him? It's like, man, that guy has patience. He has endurance.
Yes. He's the ultimate scapegoat.
He is, but I absolutely had a blast. I will get into it, but goddamn, what a movie. What a film.
Ryan?
Damn good time at the movies, y'all. Damn good time at the movies. Not my favorite Mission Impossible, but like he's 3 for 3 in my opinion for these McQuarrie Cruise Mission Impossible movies. I think it's a great time. The only real problem I really have is the part 1 nature of it. It's just, they introduce a lot of stuff that like we have to wait, and like it is not like this is probably the most complete like movie of the 3 that we've gotten this year. But like there's a lot of questions that I'm like, I just have to wait for the answers in a year. And like that's really the only problem I have. And like I said, like but besides that, like this is another incredible stunt performed, great acted. Really, like these movies get funnier somehow. Like just great time.
Sparkz?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I have qualms, but I liked it overall.
I wish I could live in this movie. And the fact that I know that there will eventually be a 6-hour version of this movie, and I hope that part 2 is just as good as what we have here. I have no reason to believe otherwise, but it is in the realm of possibility, poo-poo. But I really, really like this one. I've seen it twice. It's 2:46, I think, is the length of this movie. I don't feel it at all. I am sitting there. I don't want it to end. I'm so invested in this story. I think everyone is at the top of their game. I love it. The two of them together. I cannot say this is my favorite Mission Impossible film. I can't say that right now because it's technically not a complete film. But the two of them together could very well be.
I'm
very excited for that.
I'm 100% in the same boat because after I left the theater, I wanted more. I was like, I need to know what happens next. I know we're gonna get it. It's gonna be a year from now, but I can definitely tell you that while it's good, I would put this still below. Maybe it's above 3, but it's definitely below 4. Not to say that 4 is bad. It's not. But I still think my favorite is
Fallout.
Oh yeah, no. My favorite is still Fallout.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
friction, Ben.
But Ben was different.
Yeah, for me it's Rogue Nation.
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Honestly,
I still love Fallout.
I think the right answer to what your favorite Mission Impossible film is yes. Like those from 4 to 6. If any one of them is your favorite, which obviously 4 is mine, 5 is Ben's, and 6 is your guys's. Like it's just yes. Like those are all great movies.
Just not 2.
Hey, 2 still has good stuff in it.
It does have good stuff. It does.
You know what? I'll even say if your favorite is Mission Impossible 2, you know what? I'm actually really happy for you, and that is also a yes.
Good for what kind of life do you live? Where you know what? I just saw Dead Reckoning. It's still not better than 2. Like,
yeah, right?
What a world! What is your favorite movie? I'm so curious.
What a world! But
so,
yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna extrapolate on the point that when I left the theater, I was like, I'm pretty sure that once the whole story is told and once the end is, a proper end is given, then it might become my next favorite Mission Impossible film. Because because I can already see myself in the future. When I say Dead Reckoning, I'm putting the 2 as one whole show, one whole film.
You know what's fun about not knowing anything about Dead Reckoning Part 2 yet is that there's a stunt that Tom Cruise does in one of his See You at the Movies commercials where he's on a biplane and he's like hung to a biplane. And we haven't seen that happen. So he was filming part 2 at that moment. So I'm like, now you're just attaching yourself to biplanes, man. What are you doing next? You're crazy. I love it.
Although the biplaneness of it all with this plot line makes that make a lot more sense.
Yes, the analog nature of against technology. Yes, 100%. I love all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, full spoilers. You should probably know this by now, but full spoilers.
Why don't we start with The Hunt for Red October?
Yeah. Almost like exactly, because they even do like the the translation, what you hear them speaking in Russian, and you see the subtitles, and then it's as they are talking, they speak English as it progresses. I really like that as a tool.
I do too.
And I think the whole sequence is so well filmed. I was at the edge of my seat, and it was only until after it was done I was like, oh yeah, we never actually saw the other submarine.
Nope. Yeah,
I think that's spectacular.
The second language thing is they took from Mission Impossible 4 that we had.
Oh yeah,
that was when Ethan was waking up and he was trying to understand
Russian.
The language.
That's right. Callback.
Yeah.
Good job, Tom Cruise, bringing it back. I love it.
They do a lot of good callback stuff. There's even nice callback stuff to 1 in this one.
Yo, so one of my favorite things about this, and listening to all the interviews that I possibly can with Christopher McQuarrie, he has said this was unintentional, and I believe him. But he was like, this one feels a lot like Mission Impossible 1 with a lot of the Dutch angles. It is much more about who can you trust, that kind of thing. It bring it analog, makes it feel old school. And he's like, that is purely just by the plot. Has nothing to do with me trying to homage the first movie, Brian De Palma. This is a more personal. It is obviously way bigger in scope, but like it's really personal on the inside with the villain and the hero. So like we want it to be really tight, and there was a lot of tight. People seem to have problems with is like really tight focus on a lot of the character stuff. And I'm like, McQuarrie's just got it in the bag. He can film any type of style. I feel like he's incredible.
I will say, just because you brought it up, like the tight stuff, I was thinking about the scene with Carrie Elwes is introduced with Kittredge talking to them. We're getting all the talking.
I love it.
Talking one after another, and we're tight on them. And I realized I wasn't as crazy about like the editing of it.
Sure.
And I realized why that was probably happening, and like who knows for sure, but like it's probably COVID.
Sure.
That we have actors sitting close and we're not seeing as many people in a lot of the frames so that they can be out of the section. I was just because I think a fair bit of some of my problems that are going to come up for this come from them working through COVID.
Sure.
And I grant that the benefit of that being the hardship.
Yeah.
That Central Intelligence meeting sequence that you just mentioned is a real who's who of character actors that you are like, hey, that's that guy.
Everybody on that crew. It's just like, oh my gosh, you're from that thing, and you're from that thing, and hey, talk to Maverick guy.
Well, I remember when I saw Mark Gatiss there, and I was like, the hell is Mark Gatiss doing in this movie?
Yeah, what's Mycroft doing here?
Was the lady who played one of the Sand Snakes, or she was the mom of the Sand Snakes? That was her. She was in the movie, right?
Hell yeah.
I was like, huh.
Love it.
I don't know his name, but I only know him from Deadpool 2.
Rob Delaney.
Rob Delaney, thank you. Yeah, he's in this.
Yeah.
I really like that scene personally.
Yeah, and that's a great misdirect from the trailer, because like you think that's a bad guy, and like the whole time that entire scene is set up, it's like it feels like a bad guy, and it's like, oh my god, no, it's Ethan, it's our boy. He's not here to kill anyone. He's there for Kittredge.
One of the things I really like about McQuarrie Mission Impossible films is he really knows how to utilize the mask in ways that constantly feel fresh and fun and new. And when we see this dude who looks like a bad guy, this dude irradiates bad guy energy.
He's just got a face.
He's just got a face, and he walks in and he's doing these shady things. But man, when he takes off his mask and it's Ethan, you cheer because you're like, oh shit, yes.
I love that whole scene because everyone's talking about all this crazy stuff, end of the world. They're doing the analog thing in the background, and the second he hands Kittredge the respirator, and it's like, oh, is he gonna kill everyone? Like, because you think that this guy's gonna do one thing, and then McQuarrie just comes in and says, no, it's actually Ethan Hunt. And what I love is like you get two masks in one scene. You get the reveal that's him. And then it's like, how do you expect to get out of here? It turns around where Kittredge's face is like, I just was like, I should have seen that coming. I should have seen it coming a mile away, but it was still such a fun and good reveal that I was like, man, this movie's going to rule. And it's like the first 20 minutes.
It's so funny. Like the moment when he turns around real quickly on the Brian De Palma thing. I don't want to like skip over the whole scene because like, I'm sure I kind of believe Christopher McQuarrie when he says it wasn't intentional, but there is something that feels very much like that scene in the restaurant before the aquarium explodes with Kittredge and Ethan in the first Mission Impossible in their discussion, in the way it's filmed with the Dutch angles and everything like that. And I get, I believe him when he says it's not intentional, but I really like how much their conversation mirrors the first Mission Impossible. Like here, Ethan has all the power, but there, Kittredge had all the power. I just think that's a really cool parallel and a really cool way. And I was thinking about this. It's not a bad segue into. I was thinking about this a lot watching this movie the second time, which is I cannot remember a protagonist who has so earned his legendary status.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
At this point as Ethan Hunt. Because even Kittredge talks about like, yeah, I have a guy. I sent a guy to go do this. It's the only guy who could do it. But he hasn't come in yet.
That's an incredible exchange too of Carrie Elway's like learning about this for the first time.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, so you just like send the guy and you hope he fixes the world? And he's like, yeah, pretty much, and it's worked every time. And I'm like, well, shit. I mean, if you get results, you get results, right?
And it's really interesting. And it's really interesting that like that sequence that you're talking about, which is that like, you know, you go back to Mission Impossible 3, and the IMF is like this big organization that's underneath this like travel agency and everything. But here it kind of feels more like a disparate group of highly trained specialists, which is I think what the initial intention of the first Mission Impossible was supposed to be. And I think what McQuarrie has done since he came on board, that the idea that it's not an agency. It is a group of people, a large group of people, mind you, where that other agencies leave word like, hey, we can't do this. Can you do this? And they even say it. And it's like they have to choose to accept it. And if they can't do it, they won't choose to accept it. Like they have to ensure that this is going to work.
It's an interesting place that the IMF is at right now, because like we see when we were introduced to Ethan again, like there's like a courier who can't even get the password right.
Yeah, and
it's not because he's a villain; it's because like they're trying to. I don't think the IMF has the resources that they used to, and they're picking like dudes like they got Jimmy off the street to be an IMF agent. It feels like that dude's not properly trained. It's like because like after the fallout of all this shit, like it's very interesting to see how valuable the IMF still is, but that like people almost like don't respect them because they're all crazy people. They are people who just wear masks and have like unsanctioned freedom to do whatever they want, and that is true. But just like superheroes, capes, like sometimes you need that. Like you need to get over the bureaucracy and the red tape, and only fictional, clandestine organizations like this in every genre can exist to do that. But it feels so real because like this is quote unquote grounded in a way where AI is something that is like super scary. Like I don't think this could ever happen, but like this is the biggest scale of these movies that it could possibly be, with like AI taking over the world. But it's still like believable in a way. You know what I mean? It's like not like 1,000 nukes are launching at once. We're not there yet, but like the next one probably will be.
You're right. There is a sense of groundedness to specifically the McQuarrie Mission Impossible films. The stakes keep getting higher, and yet he still roots it in what Ethan's stakes are, which is he even says in this scene to keep it in the scene, which is like Ethan learns that every world power wants this entity. This is where we learn that it's an entity, it's an AI entity that's gone rogue, and he learns that every world power wants to use it, and he takes it upon himself like it's got to be destroyed, and he is the only one who it's not that he's the only one who can destroy it. He's the only one who believes it should be destroyed.
Actually, I think the entity might think that.
Yeah,
the entity is the only one who can do it. That's why he's out. That's why he goes so hard to stop him and to get a guy from his past to stop him.
Yeah. Sparkz, you've been a little quiet lately. Do you have anything to say you want to bring up about the scene?
No, I think we were just letting you guys roll, like Ben and I, just letting you guys go off. I agree with what look, I'll be honest. I'm going to be really upfront. Like, I'm going to kind of let you guys just go for it because I probably agree with a lot of your positives. And if I don't, I'll say so. But I'm going to pull up things I don't think you guys are going to mention. And I'm going to sound like I don't like the movie, but I like the movie.
Well, why don't we go there next then? What was one of the things that you didn't like about it?
Let's just talk about Ilsa.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's just talk about it.
Oh, thank God. Look, I'm not the only one.
It's not fridging.
No, it's not.
And it's not at all. I still think it's a shitty choice.
No, I agree.
I think articulating literally in the dialogue in the script, Ethan, decide which woman will die tonight.
Yeah.
You get to pick. it didn't have to be the two female characters. We didn't need to do that Haley Atwell's coming into the franchise, which means, well, Rebecca Ferguson's got to go. Because we've had Mission Impossible movies and one female protagonist per time on the team. And like, I love Benji. I love Luther. It would have devastated me more in a good way for storytelling if one of them had gotten it.
Yeah. And
honestly.
Here, and I 100% agree with you, and here's why they didn't do it. One, it's a little bit of politics because Rebecca Ferguson is a considerably bigger star than she was when she made the last two Mission Impossible movies. They wanted to bring in Haley Atwell for... Ilsa Faust is my favorite Mission Impossible character. She is very much like Ethan Hunt. They are very much the same type of character. Haley Atwell is not. She is very much her own different type of character, and the chemistry that she has with Tom Cruise is electrifying. And it's a different relationship, and I agree it is a bad choice. But they were not going to kill Benji because he's the easy choice, and they weren't going to kill Luther because that would be you're killing the only black guy on your team. Like, I don't think there was they wanted to kill someone in this movie, and that's the problem. And there is no good person to kill other than we are bringing in a potential love interest, potential second to you. We have to get rid of Rebecca Ferguson. I think it's shitty. I don't think they had to do it, but I think it is the most quote unquote logical choice for a character to die. They shouldn't have done it.
Sorry, real quick. I'll push back a little bit and say that I think, to be honest, I thought about it a lot. I think the correct choice was Luther. And like, I love him. I don't want him out of these movies. And I understand the optics of like, you killed your black man on team. You killed the black man on team who's been in as many movies as Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Like the reason that would work is you killed Ethan's conscience. You killed his heart.
Yeah.
Which is what Luther has been, is like, that's truly an Ethan. I don't know what he's going to do if Luther's off the table. That's how you really get Ethan to the point of, oh, like, I got what Luther was saying of you need to not kill him at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Boy, would I have bought a lot more that was on the table if Luther had been the person who got. Like, I would have been like, I don't know if Ethan can walk away from that. And it sucks because, like, it just in the framework of the film, even if it had to be Ilsa, I don't think it's executed well. And I'm even gonna like chalk this up to, we know how like McQuarrie writes through things as they're making it, and I can see this kind of not coming together quite the way and being as refined. I'll say I don't think this movie's as polished as McQuarrie's other two. I feel the cracks, and I do think that's COVID related. I do think that's trying to work around not only making a two-parter big film, but working under those constraints. And if Ilsa had to go, I think there's a better way to have done it in the story than so directly putting it on Ethan as this choice between two women. The framing didn't work for me. The framing when it gets to the moment where she's on the bridge, I'm just like, I know what's about to happen. And like, it's just, it's not feeling dramatic to me. It's just feeling shitty.
I hate the moment, but I do think it felt dramatic. I think they had a great fight.
I mean, like, I should frame particularly, like, I can feel both things. Like, I get the dramatic of what is at stake and like, but I feel like I'm being set up for it, and I don't like that feeling.
Sure.
And I also don't like, just real quick, Brandon, and then I'm going to throw it to you. I also don't like, as many others have pointed out, that we basically.
Oh no, they froze.
They froze.
No.
Oh.
Well.
So you can't hear us at all?
Well, we can hear you now. So they basically what?
That we get given in the script that Tom Cruise is motivated against this particular man because a nameless woman died in his arms. And like that also being tied into this whole idea of these women dying for Ethan thing. I was like, oh, okay, this is just, I just don't think it's handled well.
I agree. I want you to go, Brandon. And then I have a great reason why some of this shit happened. And it's interesting.
Well, actually, Ben has been trying to say something also, and I want to throw to Ben. I have a lot to say, but I do want to get Ben in here before he gets lost in the shuffle.
I mean, part of me does understand the logic behind why Ilsa had to go. Really the reason why obviously I'm not a biggest fan because, I grew to love Ilsa over the past few films. I think she's a great character. I love Rebecca Ferguson in the movie. Also, I just want Ethan Hunt to have a happily ever after. And it looked like he was going to get it with Ilsa. Like when they were going to Venice,
were they romantically together though? I don't think they were.
Yeah,
they were not together. They were that like it's only something that like happens in movies. It's like it's past romance. It's like kinship. They're not. They might be banging off screen, but they're not kissing on screen. They're not lovers.
To me, I just like the two of them together. That's just. It's mostly just a me thing. It is mostly just a me thing. But I will admit, she does go out like a boss. She does put up a great fight.
So yeah, I really like the moment, and I was devastated when it happened because I really like Ilsa. Now, so there's a couple of things here that I think are at play, which is outside of the first film, no like one of our main team members has died in a Mission Impossible film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is really the first time this has happened, and I find that, and I think that's really interesting that you've decided to do this now, because what McQuarrie wants to do is kind of really like pay off what he's playing at in Fallout. What is the consequences of choosing this mission? And Ethan has never had to deal with consequences, like not really. He's always succeeded in the end, and everybody's lived, and everyone's gone on to be happily ever after. Aside of the first film, so the first film happens, and I think that's kind of interesting to what Sparkz' point is saying, which is that Ilsa may not be the right person to do it. And I'm going to bring this up knowing that this is not a franchise that does this. But do we actually think she's dead?
Yes.
Yeah? You think so?
I think you have a fair point. I've seen the argument, and I think it's fair.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't hate it if like executed well.
Yeah.
Because I've seen there's a very good point that people have made that it does feel very McQuarrie of why we are faked out about Ilsa's death at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Is to tell you as an audience, like under the sly, like, hey, we faked it here. We'll fake it later too.
Sure.
And that Ilsa could be the element that's off the table to get to the entity. And I get it. And I think that's a valid.
But it was Gabriel who did it.
I think that's a valid argument. Just means like they could have saved her and like he didn't actually get her.
I guess
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's a cheap. But like that feels like a cheapo death.
I feel like it's a
Bumblebee.
I feel like it's a little cheap.
Yeah.
If we do it that way, but I can also see how McQuarrie might execute it well on the back end.
I'll tell you what. I'll be happy if she shows up.
Right.
Hell yeah.
I'm open to that possibility. That I think that's a compelling argument. The fake out death thing in particular has me like, yeah, I feel like you do that for a reason when you're killing her later in the movie, and that it is very pointed that like the only person who brings up talking about her after she's passed is Haley Atwell's character, who would in this context think she is truly dead if
that's
the others
true.
Know that she isn't.
That's true.
And Luther very quickly goes away somewhere. So and he and her are close. So
I guess there is like literally the immediate next scene where like Tom Cruise is like incredibly sad about it. So I guess he could just be acting for the entity.
We've never seen him fake sad before.
No, I know, but like that's a moment for the audience. It's not like
no, but that's what I mean because that's the what he did with the guy when they faked him out that the nukes went off in Fallout. Ethan comes in all upset and angry as though they failed the mission and all the cities got blown up with the nukes.
Oh, that's true. Sure.
So like I can buy.
I guess
I can buy the argument that this is something. It feels McQuarrie when people describe that twist coming around on part 2.
I would certainly feel better like once part 2 comes out and like we see the whole story. I probably would feel better about it. But like, I do think execution is still.
I'm willing to reassess it. But like execution in this movie and only being able to look at this movie alone. Not loving it.
It specifically, it is the line. Sorry, Brian. It is the line of like, choose which woman will die, Ethan. It's very much that he is the villain, but it's like it is like so like that's almost too much in your face.
And that's the thing. Ethan's not the kind of person to make that choice. He's the kind of person to say both. Yeah. And so like I would believe, and you're absolutely correct. There are 2 paths. Well, 3 paths. There are 3 paths. If there's the path where Ilsa is dead, which really sucks because I love Ilsa, and killing Rebecca Ferguson I don't think was the right choice. And for this film, seeing the whole picture could change. There's the path where she is alive, and it's not handled well. In which case, it feels cheap, it feels emotionally manipulative, and there's nothing really here that works for me. And then there's the path that it's done really well, and that's the path that I kind of hope the Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning is taking, because I do really like Ilsa, and it is the only black mark that I personally have on this film is Ilsa's death.
Yeah, and like again, a lot of it just comes down to like that direct execution, like putting directly in the dialogue that it's forcing Ethan into this very like stating plainly choose which woman dies tonight kind of thing. That feels really grody in a way that like was just hard to work around. And I feel like there was just a better way to trap Ethan in this position without stating it so pointedly and making it feel so driven by the singular idea of like, it's not that they're women, but it is two women who we decided to put on the table for this decision.
Yeah. The thing like, I wouldn't have such a problem with it if we knew Gabriel better, if we knew him more. And I know he is an asset of the entity. The entity is the actual bad guy of the movie, and Gabriel is like, he's basically like the mini boss. He's the voice of God. He's the Metatron. He's Gabriel. Okay. Like it's all biblical shit. It's a cross as the MacGuffin.
Can I ask you guys, like, is your headcanon that like the entity only picks him out because of his history with Ethan?
I don't think it's the only thing, but it is a factor. Yes.
I think that's it. I think that's like the only reason it's this dude.
Well, because clearly he's like a spy, so he has skill.
But it starts like manipulating him in his normal life to the degree where he would be interested in what the entity would offer before it even directly approaches him.
Yeah. I'm just wondering
because it's like, this is the guy that's going to throw Ethan off the most.
Yeah. And so here, I'm going to bring up, were you about to say something, Ben?
Oh, no. I was just thinking about the question Sparkz asked.
Yeah. So here's a really great fun fact that I learned. There was going to be originally a 25-minute opening sequence with a de-aged Ethan going on a mission with a de-aged Morales. What's the actor's name? Isai? Isai Morales. And it was going to be literally what we just watched with
Indiana
Jones. Thank you. And then McQuarrie was like, I don't want to do that. That'll be distracting. And I think he's hilarious. I love that.
I mean, I also read this interview, and I do really appreciate that he was like, the technology's gotten very good, but it was going to be distracting. I really like how he handles that flashback sequence. It's clearly Tom Cruise, but he obscures his face so that you know that you don't see the age of Tom Cruise. And I think that was a really smart. You see the hair. I think that was a really smart move. The girl's name is, I guess, Marie. Gabriel says it at the party.
Yeah. So fun fact, she's in the credits. She got fully paid to be in a 25-minute sequence, and then they ended up not using it. So she will be in part 2. So she better be, because they're always like, what the whole plot is.
They've got it. I will say, like, part 2 does have to give some more context than just a woman who all we know is a name died.
Yes.
Like there's got to be more context.
He clearly knows Gabriel really well.
I will admit, like, I didn't feel like I needed it in this movie. But like, again, like when you couple it with the other stuff that was going on with like putting women in harm's way for Ethan, that's part of it too. Like Morales as a character, like hit Gabriel coming up and being like all the women that suffer because of Ethan, and I'm like, well, like his wife kind of got to like just leave, and outside of that, we haven't had a lot of problems.
That's why I think like a lot of people are throwing fridge around for this movie. And I'm like, Mission Impossible has really like done a good job of respecting women, I think, for the most part, especially showing badass women. So like,
we are very much like as a culture starting to lump fridge in as a term for like killing off a woman character. Yeah. And like she's not killed off to motivate Ethan per se. That's not like the goal. The goal is not kill a woman character to motivate Ethan, but she is killed hoping that by the entity blatantly, this is in the script, hoping that it'll make Ethan kill Morales at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And like that's writing the line, but I won't say it's fridging.
No,
I don't think that it's as direct as that, but it's definitely dancing with it in a way that I'm like, that's not so good.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah. Just kind of because we've been talking about Ilsa as far as in relation to Grace's character. Why don't we talk about Haley Atwell?
Sure.
Who I think is incredible in this movie.
Haley Atwell is one of those people who are like, why aren't you more famous? Why aren't you in more movies? Because truly, like, she's so good. She's really good in Captain America. I haven't seen a lot of other things she's done. This is like if she wasn't already a star-making performance.
One of her first things was
I'm thirsty.
In a miniseries called Pillars of Earth.
Oh,
with
yes!
Ian McShane. She was really good there.
It's like a show.
And then I want to... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say her Agent Carter series. Like, obviously, that's still MCU type, but she was excellent.
Yeah.
I also want to bring up, this is a super deep cut, but in her early career, she did a Big Finish Doctor Who story where she created Daleks, and she's like great in it, and I was like, this sounds like Haley Atwell, and I looked at the cover art. It's like, this is Haley Atwell.
Love it. It's awesome.
I love Haley Atwell just in general. Obviously, Agent Carter is one of my favorite Marvel characters because of that TV show. I loved her in that TV show. But here, someone tweeted this really well. Someone pointed this really well, which is like, Haley Atwell is kind of one of those actors that you always kind of who's always kind of been there, but like here, it's like you're meeting her for the first time.
Yeah,
and I truly feel that way because I think she's a revelation.
She's really good. Yeah,
I would definitely say, as much as I loved her in First Avenger, obviously, like we hear Haley Atwell, the Carter, Peggy Carter, Captain America, First Avenger. But seeing her in this, I felt like she has so much more to do, so much more time to shine. And she's truly showing what she can do. And I believe her every single second of the way. I not once did I think, oh, this is Peggy Carter playing someone else. It's like, no, that is Grace. That lady, her name is Grace.
Her like, I've never seen these passports before in my life. I'm a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so good.
Or even or one of the like is way later. It's near the end of the movie. I really want to talk about this. I love her scene when Ethan and Benji are trying to convince her to put the mask on to play the White Widow, and she is just so uncomfortable. And props to both. What's her name? Something Kirby.
Vanessa
Kirby. Thank you. And props to Vanessa Kirby because it's the whole Vanessa Kirby playing Haley Atwell playing Vanessa Kirby thing. The triple deep. Because I see that scene when she's talking to Kittredge, trying to sell both halves of the key. I'm like, I know that's Haley Atwell. I could tell how uncomfortable she is, and I love it. I believe it just the whole time. You feel like there's definitely not the person or you've been watching the past 2 hours with.
Good.
You know what's interesting about that sequence, which I didn't notice. Zara pointed it out to me. Her eyes are different when she's Haley Atwell.
Yeah. Oh, very bright blue and then very dark brown. I
genuinely like I'm not saying it's a problem with the movie, but nobody noticed. I was sitting there and I'm like,
her brother didn't.
This felt like this was on purpose, and I'm kind of stunned that nobody noticed. Yeah. This wasn't like a subtle difference. This was bright blue switched to brown, and nobody notices it. I
know. You guys kind of made it seem like I was an idiot for not noticing it on accident. I don't mean to say that's what you meant to do, but I kind of feel vindicated that nobody else in the movie saw it either, because I don't notice eye colors, and clearly her brother is terrible at noticing her sister's own eye color.
Boy, terrible.
Yeah.
But I really like that kind of attention to detail, and I only brought it up because I wanted to just mention the attention to detail that you wouldn't necessarily think about. Like, yeah, these masks have eye holes, not eyes, so they need to be different color, and I really appreciate that McQuarrie went that extra step.
Mm-hmm. Now that you mention it, Brandon, because when I was watching that scene and I was watching Haley Atwell playing Vanessa Kirby, I was like, something's off, but I completely did not realize the eyes. And
it plays so well, which is what you said. It was so brilliant what you just said, Ben. Is it plays so well because when Kittredge says, "You're not," what's her real name? Alana. Alana.
Yeah.
You're not Alana. You're like, oh shit. Because Ben, even you didn't notice the eye color, and I didn't notice the eye color, but we both noticed instinctively that there was something different. She didn't look like Vanessa Kirby. She looked like Haley Atwell in a mask, and so that moment plays so well because you're like, oh shit, does Kittredge know? And then he doesn't, because Kittredge also is terrible at noticing eye color.
And he's old.
That was what was at play, Brandon, was that, because I did notice the eye color thing, is when he did that, I thought that was exactly why he was doing it. And then
I knew you were yee-high. You're a criminal.
It only bothered me that her brother looked her directly in the eyes for like one shot and then like nothing. Yeah. I'm like, boy, you're a bad brother.
That's true.
I want to rewind. I want to get off the train for a minute because there's such incredible moments in the train that I wanted to spend like the whole review on. But Haley Atwell has so many standout scenes, and I think she is part of the best chase sequence in the franchise. I really like the car chase sequence. I think the car chase sequence in Rome is super inventive and fun. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. With when they tumble over the stairs and they're in the opposite seats and they're just like,
How'd this happen?
Shit.
Yeah.
So funny, fun. Palm Clemente chasing after them in this big old van. Take the wheel. Oh, just such an incredible moment. I just can't get enough of it.
I kind of want to see more unhinged Palm Clemente because I thought she was a joy to watch. I know she didn't have a whole lot to do on screen, but when she's in the big rig and she's just laughing and just cackling, just maniacally, I'm like, I want to see a movie about her.
We love a good.
I want to see that.
A good like bad thug, like a cool like that's like another mini boss.
And the closest we've had is like the Bone Doctor.
She's the best.
Yeah.
Bone Doctor.
Yeah.
Now, to me, personal MVP of the movie is Palm Clemente.
Oh yeah, dude. That like hall. It's not a hallway. It's like an alleyway. I think the alleyway fight. Incredible. Love it. She's just like she's doing like the Black Widow thing on him, and her abs are just on the screen, and he's just like, I can't get out of here. I was like, damn, dude.
Yeah.
I want to see the spots.
There was one other thing I wanted to say about that chase scene. Oh, so one of the things I do love about, obviously, the newer Mission Impossible movies, they just keep getting better and better and better. But now that you guys mentioned the chase scene with Haley Atwell, it kind of reminds me of the car sequence with Maggie Q in MI2. Not like the main, not like the big chase scene, but no, second one.
So Thandie White
Maggie Q's in 3.
That's why, yeah.
Oh, Maggie Q's in 3. Who's the lady in
Thandie White Newton?
Thandie White
Yeah,
Newton.
her. Not Maggie Q, my bad. Because, she's a thief. She's stealing cars. She's driving erratically. And because a lot of times, especially in those early MI2 films, like you see Meet a Thief, they have all these different skills and they're like, they're badasses in their own right, but they're like a little too badass, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
Whereas you see Haley Atwell, who's very good at one thing, stealing shit. Everything else, oh hell no, I'm not.
I love that she's a bad driver so much. Running in, and that's how Tom Cruise first catches her because she's just running into shit. And she did a lot of her own stunt driving in this, which is incredible. You can definitely tell, especially in how they film it. The humor in that sequence is so good. I'm just gonna blanket because I don't want to just start listing off moments in the sequence that I really love. Just that from start to finish, the car chase sequence is my favorite sequence in the movie.
It is interesting to watch the same stairs in Venice get messed up in a car chase twice in 1 year. That's true. At the movie theaters.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
I think that's why it happened.
It's also a good scene. It's not like it's a bad scene.
I forgot that the stairs in Venice got screwed up in Fast and the Furious.
Big bomb, baby. Big old bomb. Practical bomb, baby.
Man, that part of Venice and Rome, they're not doing too hot, are they?
They're having a tough time.
Yeah, it's rough. They need Optimus Prime in there.
He'll be the next truck he'll be the next car to turn over.
He transforms and his entire body just gets flattened and destroying the entire staircase.
Wouldn't surprise me at all if the next Transformers does the same thing in Venice.
Yeah. So my favorite part from the Rum sequence is he thinks he's about to get into a sick ass Lamborghini, and then the electric Fiat comes out, and he's like. And then he's in the car and he's an old man, I swear, this technology, it's just not how it used to be or whatever. I was like, man, I love Tom Cruise, just being an old man. And Haley Atwell is no, I'm sure you're really good at this.
Right.
One of the things I really like about Ethan Hunt, especially the way Tom Cruise is allowed to play him, he's, Tom Cruise feels very much like an older action hero, not in the sense that he is an old man, but in the sense of your Bruce Willis's, right? He is fallible. He's capable of being beaten. He's seasoned. He's capable of being. He gets hurt in a fight. His superpower is basically willpower. He'll just keep getting up even if he's about to die. Yeah. And he is capable of being outsmarted. Haley Atwell does it with the tire, and he's not this perfect kind of superhero where he's what I'm getting at is one of the things I really like about after that sequence is a really small character moment where he's just really awkward with the steering wheel. He just doesn't know what to do with the steering wheel, and he's just kind of
the cops are coming by, and he's just what are you doing? It's really funny.
He's just hiding it behind his back.
Yeah. I really like that about Ethan Hunt. Ethan Hunt has constantly been a really interesting hero to follow because he is at both times super incredible, legendary superhero and completely fallible.
It's why these
line.
Absolutely. And again, like I love, I like the new, like I like Fast X, but like also like those movies are not trying to be,
They're different.
They're operating on different levels, but like I just really appreciate that like Tom Cruise doesn't mind getting a scrape. As opposed to other characters who are like, oh, I'm not allowed to get punched more than the other guy I'm fighting. Like that kind of bullshit. Or Tom Cruise is like, no, I'm about to fall out of a plane. It's going to hurt. I'm like, yeah, Tom, you did that. Like,
Yeah,
I always appreciate that.
I saw this clip online where it was like, I guess it was Simon Pegg and a bunch of other actors. They were watching the scene where Tom Cruise takes the bike off the mountain. And Simon Pegg's just like, every effing movie, he has to do something like this. Just every effing time.
I love that they were there watching the filming of that stunt, and they were like, the whole cast was there watching the filming of that stunt. They were all like, we all held their breath.
He did it 7 times.
If you're doing it, you're going to be there and be like, I need to be there to see it because I need to tell the story of how I was there when Tom Cruise died.
Yes.
That's how this goes. Like, I'm not going to not be present for the insane story of how Tom Cruise died.
Simon Pegg made the joke of I did a phone recording just in case they didn't get any good footage. I'm like, I got it, guys, don't worry.
I feel that if like Tom, like God forbid, I really hopefully this doesn't happen, but if something were to happen to Tom Cruise and he were to die filming one of the Mission Impossible films, I just have a feeling someone's gonna remake the day the music died to the day that Tom Cruise died.
No,
I'll tell you, they'll use that footage.
Yeah.
If he does go, they'll use that footage.
Tell you what,
It'll
he
be
died
his
in
last will and
Reckoning Part
testament.
2. So
I think I genuinely believe Tom Cruise has it in his contract that like if he dies making the movie, they have to finish making the movie.
oh sure.
And like make his death part of it.
I bet I wonder if there's like, all right, here's script B in case this cliff jump doesn't go right.
So, can we talk about my MVP of the movie?
Is it Shea Wiggum?
It's definitely Shea Wiggum.
Oh my god, dude, he's just like rubbing people's faces like everyone's wearing a mask. Oh.
Once again, an actor I have seen in countless things, but here I'm like, you're incredible. I think the whole cast, by the way, just blanket is incredible.
He's Captain Stacy in Beyond the Spider-Verse. I didn't know that until I listened to a podcast.
It's also an Agent Carter reunion.
Oh, is he an Agent
Yes,
Carter?
he's in Agent Carter.
Hell yeah.
He's her captain.
I love that. That guy is so funny. He's like the greatest, like, I'm an actor who looks like a blue collar guy, but I'm actually like really charismatic. Like, he's so good and he's always right behind Ethan, but he's not good enough to like be on Ethan. It's so good.
The best shot.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the best shot in the movie for me, I think, is when Shea Wiggum is like, he's got to be somewhere, and he's running up behind him.
The whole time I was seeing like those sequences with Wiggum and the rest of the CIA crew. I'm like, this is just Lupin the Third IRL, but with more guns and explosions. and I am here for it, and I absolutely love it.
Right down to the bit where like he almost gets to Lupin, and then he's like, Lupin's doing a good thing. Damn it. Yeah, because you're bringing up, sorry, dogs. Because you're bringing up him, I'll say like, there's a lot of sequences I enjoy in this movie. I think they're very good. I admire how they're made. My personal favorite sequence is the airport. Because I like all the character beats. It's how we meet Grace, which I think is really, really good.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing is set up by them. I really love the tension for Benji. Trying to
the bomb,
what he thinks is a nuclear bomb.
You are done. That actually gave me chills because like it's spelled my name. He knows my name. Oh my god.
Yeah.
But in that sequence, I really like. Sorry to bother you, Ethan, but do you know what always comes but never arrives?
Yes.
What are you talking about?
And getting all the way down to the what's going on. There might be a nuclear bomb in packaging, and he's like, a nuclear bomb is what you interrupt me for. How long do we have? Maybe 20 seconds right now.
And he's just like,
yeah.
How fast can I run?
I thought all of it, the tricking the Wingham and the others, and Luther and Benji and the tension of that, and meeting Grace, all of it I thought was strewn together so well. It was truly my favorite sequence. I thought we were bouncing around the airport really effectively.
Yeah.
Lots of good character beats. That was honestly the bit where I was like, if Benji dies in this movie, I feel set up for it.
Yeah, that's where I thought it was going to happen. I'm like, oh damn. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, the bomb sequence, like that whole time where he said "you are done," and that the whole thing with the name and trying to figure out the bomb password or the code. I was on the edge of my seat. I had not felt that tense in Mission Impossible movie. I mean, I felt it at the end of Fallout because it's like, did they make it? Are they gonna save the water supply? What's gonna happen? And just the fake out of there was nothing there to begin with. It's got to be one of the biggest middle fingers in the spy world. But it's such a great thing for the entity and for Gabriel, because at this point the film is telling you these are true horrible entities, no pun intended, and villains in Gabriel. These guys are willing to toy with you and screw you over and put you through the worst mental and physical stress imaginable to get a simple point across.
Mm-hmm.
Sparkz, real quickly, I just want to talk about, Sparkz talked about a little bit of some great character beats in the sequence, which is true. Shea Wingham, as Ryan brought up, constantly trying to take everybody's face off is incredible. Even he does it again to Kittredge in the train.
I'm glad it's consistent.
Yeah.
You
never know.
Which I really love. But like, I really like when it's first revealed that the guy isn't who he is, and Benji at this point has been talking like, I can do code just like you, Luther, and he goes, how'd you do that? And he goes, nothing's impossible for the, what does he say, the net warrior or something?
Oh, I don't
remember the nickname.
Which I just thought was so funny. And Luther once again, Ving Rhames, incredible. I think this is probably Simon Pegg's best turn as Benji, in my personal opinion.
He's consistently good in all of them. Like, I'd have to man.
I would definitely say he got better from 3 to 4.
I think my favorite Benji specific outing is Rogue Nation.
Yeah.
Because it's him being pulled in and being like, I'm not leaving you, and sticking by his side, and all the stuff that happens because he decides to make that choice. I would almost give it to you here because I think the performance in the nuclear scene is really good, but then Benji's not in much of the movie after that. He's in maybe 3 scenes.
Also, Luther's like, y'all, I'll see you in part 2.
Yeah, right.
That made me, I was like,
there's just a little bit of like, it just, it's what makes sense for the plot, but it's also like, it's, again, I think it's the COVID stuff where it's like, there's just no good reason to force certain people to be in a room when they don't need to be.
I love it. It's actually, his reasoning is actually, it totally makes sense. He's like, yo, I need to be off the grid, totally analog. Like, no one can know where I am. Goodbye until part 2. I think that is actually, it makes sense. And it just made me laugh because I'm like, that's a movie thing.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, one of the things to make a new point about why I really enjoy this movie is because of how analog that the characters have to go, and how it kind of makes you think is like, wow, we live in a world where everything is digital, everything is connected. I mean, I just bought a Universal Pass on my phone earlier today, and it's just one of those things is like, oh my God, all this stuff is connected. So to go back to stuff from like the 90s, stuff like analog stuff where you have all these, like the cathode ray tube, the CRT TVs, it's like, whoa. It's just one of those things that makes you think like this technology, when you really think about it, shouldn't be described as, oh, this is like 20 or 25 years old. It technically shouldn't be that old.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah. The idea that, okay, so our agency, let's say they've been around since the 60s, since that show was around, we have to make that all analog. So we have to type everything that's ever happened in our entire history. So there's hundreds of dudes just typing away in a room. I'm like, damn, that's got to be boring as hell. Oh man, hours.
You got to have like ear noise canceling headphones in or something, because that constant typing noise in that big open room with all those acoustics and the echo is got to drive you nuts.
My dream.
Oh yeah.
That's ASMR for me, buddy. Like, I'm sitting in the middle of that room and here, like, yes.
So I do love one good typewriter noise, but I don't know if I can handle like 500. That might be a little much. Yeah. My favorite sequence, we don't talk about it now, but my favorite sequence is the train sequence, because I think that is for me like my favorite stunt. It just keeps going. And I'm like, it's still going. I can't believe it. Another train car. It's like, it's so incredible.
Yeah, the train sequence. It's so tense. I'm on the edge of my seat the whole time.
I should have only paid for half my seat.
Yeah, right. Like the whole time when they're climbing and you're right, Ryan. It's incredible. It's an incredible sequence.
You pay for your whole seat, but you only use the edge.
Uncharted 2 fans everywhere wept.
Yeah,
That's true. What did he say? Like something, the purest form of flattery or something like that when someone pointed it out to him?
Corey, the 60-year-old man did not play your video game, sir.
No. There's so much I want to talk about. So McQuarrie is been playing with this idea since Fallout that he continues here, which is the idea of the choice. We heard it a lot come up in Fallout where, what happens if you choose not to accept it? What happens? What was that choice? Should you choose to accept it? They really play with it in Fallout, and they're playing with it here too. But here they play with a more personal way that everyone made a personal choice to join the IMF because of something, and we're using something from Ethan's past that we're not quite sure of. Something happened. We know a woman died that he was close to, and and Gabriel was involved in it. And after that led him, and that event led him to the IMF, and it led him to the choice. And and we pay that off with Grace finally saying, "I choose to accept." I really find that interesting that it's taken Mission Impossible this long to play with the idea of choice. Mm-hmm. What happens if Ethan chose to accept the mission, but he also changed the mission. He's like, this is my mission now. I am the only one who will do this mission the way it should be done.
He went rogue.
And he went rogue. They even said like, so he went rogue before it even started.
Yeah.
So I really like that kind of thing. And I'm so curious to know how it's going to pay off, because I think it will have to in Dead Reckoning Part 2. He can't just keep proposing the question of what this choice is, of what choice means to the IMF, what choice means to Ethan, without finally paying it off. And I'm so curious to know what that's going to be.
I'm curious to know if anyone's ever said no. Like they get in a mission briefing and they go, "Oh hell, no, nope." I'm
sure.
It's the shortest Mission Impossible movie ever made. It's 2 minutes long.
They even say it, and the thing is, like, they are authorized not to take the mission if they cannot guarantee success.
Yeah.
So if they send it to someone, obviously that's why most of them go to Ethan, because he will just take the mission and do it. But I'm sure there are people who are like, I don't think that I can do this, so no, I don't take this mission.
Ethan is the guy. He is like, not that he's the last resort, but like when it gets so big that no one else can do it, like, no, Ethan can handle it. We know he can. I'm sure he's not. They don't want to bring him in for the tier 1 shit, the easy shit. Like, oh, some dude like robbed the store. We got to find out who it is. They're not bringing Ethan in. Is that dude trying to blow up the world? Ethan, where are you?
The truly impossible missions probably go to Ethan at this point. But one of the things that we bring up in the beginning with like the new guy, welcome to the IMF, you chose correctly, or something like that. He has, like, again, playing with the idea of it's a choice. It's not a job. It's a choice. We're here. They even say to Grace, we are here because we want to be. No one's making us do this. We are here because we want to be. It's a choice. I find that so interesting, and I'm sure there's like a key ingredient that I'm missing between Fallout and Dead Reckoning that didn't click into place. But I love the question of like, what's McQuarrie playing at? What are we playing at with this choice? What door are we knocking on with these choices? Constantly highlighting the idea of choice. I'm so invested in this question. I'm so interested to know where it goes.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know if I'm as heavily invested in it. I think it is more the thing that's like the mission is so hard. Like, we're not going to make you go do it if you don't think you can do it. Like, we want someone who's qualified. But maybe he is playing into something. I think there will be a choice Ethan makes that this is the end of the Ethan Hunt saga. They're talking about maybe making more Mission Impossibles, but like I think this is like the end game scenario we're talking. So like whether Ethan dies or not, I think it is going to be choice related, where he's like, I might be done. I think I saved the world enough. I deserve happiness. And is that something he can live with, like Batman? Like, is that a choice he can make?
That brings up a good question. Regardless of whether or not we think the next one will be the end, I kind of err on the side of Ryan. I also think that the next one will probably be the end of the Ethan Hunt saga. Does the end of Ethan Hunt's story end in his death? Is that the only way it can end?
I think, unfortunately, for someone like Ethan, it is like a Batman thing where like he will always save the world. Like, he's not going to not save the world. So like, it might be a situation where like I don't want this to happen. It's like a Michael Keaton 40 years later. It's me. I'm back to save the mission. Like I don't think it's going to be that. So like, I think they'll respect it more and like he saved the world enough. Let him have a happy ending with Grace, not with Grace, with Elsa, with not Elsa. Maybe a threesome with his wife and her new husband. Who knows?
What's the guy's name? What's the husband's name? I forgot his
Paul.
name.
Erik.
Paul.
Director Paul.
Dr. Paul. What's the actor's name again?
Wes Bentley.
Wes Bentley. He looks. Go ahead. Go ahead. This is a stupid tangent. Go ahead, Sparkz.
Theoretically, Ethan could get to the point where he would be presented a mission and not accept it because he knew he couldn't succeed because he's old.
Yeah.
And like you could just have that be why he doesn't do it.
Yeah, but I don't want like
which is just like no, not that you have to show him that, but just be like that's the reason.
Yeah.
Like Ethan's out of the game because Ethan physically cannot do it.
Yeah.
And he knows he can't accept the mission.
Ooh, I got an idea.
Go ahead.
What if in future Mission Impossible movies, Ethan does retire from the field, but he becomes the secretary?
That was the original ending for 4. That's actually really interesting that you bring that up. And McQuarrie thought that was stupid and decided against it.
Well, damn.
So I wonder. I don't think that's going to be the case. However, going back to the question of choice, because I get really obsessive with these kind of existential questions. One of the reasons why I really like the Eva Rebuild movies, not because of what they tell you, but what they don't. And so I'm really invested in this question, and I'll be honest, probably too invested. But I could see the end of Dead Reckoning Part 2. Mission's over. They won. Happy ending. He gets a package. Should you choose to accept it? And he says no. It's like I don't need to do this.
Like it's in the end game. This is happy dancing.
Isn't arguably like what he's playing with choice already in this film? Like the idea
with Elsa and stuff.
Of the importance of choice. No, with he chooses not to kill Morales.
Oh yeah.
At the end of the movie.
Gabriel.
He doesn't kill Gabriel. That's choice. That's actively going against what the entity planned for him to do.
That's true.
That's the whole thing, is that the entity planned that Ethan would either die there or kill Gabriel, and either way the entity wins.
True.
It's Ethan's choice that makes it so that what the entity predicted wouldn't happen. Now obviously like you can say that the entity has many calculations and many algorithms, because that's the bullshit that
I love it.
entity in this movie under, is that like, well, it's predicted every possible contingency and scenario. I'm like, this is the most likely one. But there's obviously the one where Ethan survives and he gets out of the situation because that's how the entity knows that Ethan can kill it. But arguably the idea of like, why is it important that Ethan makes choices is brought to its full resolution in a sense by the end of the movie, because he doesn't kill Gabriel.
True.
That's true. Good point.
Yeah.
It's just interesting things that I noticed while rewatching Fallout recently. That this is a door that McQuarrie is knocking on, and I really like it. It's a theme that I'm really interested in.
I mean, it's really at the heart of like the anti-AI story.
Yeah,
is like, what is the difference? It's the matter of choice.
Sure.
Like everything is calculated, or everything is choice, and choice is individual choices built off things that you can't numerically count on.
I brought it up.
Even Ethan probably doesn't know if he'll actually not kill Gabriel until he's in the moment. What choice he'll make.
That's true. When I brought up when we reviewed all the movies, but I thought like these movies are getting more and more complex, but they're not getting in complex in a way where it's ever confusing. And this movie could have so easily been super duper. It is a little convoluted, but not in a way that like bothers me whatsoever, because it's big AI nonsense. But I just love that's like, no, that's what he wants you to think. You have to do something completely different. And it's like Luther's just like, I just loves like, that's what he wants you to do, Ethan. You got to think of the opposite.
I will
acknowledge. It's silly.
I will acknowledge that feels a little like, wow, McQuarrie really likes going to that bucket just because we watched all the movies recently.
Yes.
And like Ethan says that about Lark. He says that about what's his name?
Solomon?
Kane. He says that about him as well.
It's
he's
true.
like the fact that we're doing that is exactly what he wants us to do. And I'm like, well, okay, we're just saying,
but this one makes sense.
Yeah.
Algorithms.
One of the things about the entity that I really like is how menacing of a presence it is. It's not, for the first time, there's no person. This is an existential threat that Ethan has to face. This is the biggest thing Ethan ever has to. Real quickly, there's a very easy path to kind of be like, oh, he's been manipulated. Gabriel has been behind all your villains from the past. And I'm so glad they didn't do that.
100%.
So happy they didn't do that. But they keep kind of building on this idea of this threat, and finally this existential threat is something that Ethan has never truly gone up against. And part of what sells that for me is the party reveal, when it says we would say that this party is the interested party, and and you turn around and all the angles around Ethan as he's realizing that this party is the entity, and I just thought that was such a good reveal.
Yeah. Again, like having AI be your big bad, like could have been extremely cheesy, could have been really stupid, but again, like McQuarrie and Cruz, like they really came up with a really compelling digital Sauron. That I love that it started. It started in social media and entertainment stuff, and then it's works its way in the news, and it's like, man, that sounds a little too real if you ask me. Skynet.
And all the all the intelligence agencies across the world, they want to fight Ethan. They want to control it because they want to control the truth. To control this entity is to control the truth.
Yes.
And this entity has other plans because it's self-aware. Real quickly, I do want to mention on kind of the complexity nature of this and how the entity is always witting and aware of everything. I do like the ambiguity that Rebecca Ferguson might have been hired by the entity, but we're not truly sure. It's pretty obvious that that is true, but I do think that the opening is there, that it could have just been friends in MI6 helping her.
Yeah.
It's never like solidified that this was the entity. Like it is kind of for Grace.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a cool desert scene. Like it's pretty cool. Like
I love that eye patch.
Yeah, it's because Rebecca Ferguson can't blink.
Yeah.
There's a great wink. Thank you. She can't wink. So like she looks like, all right, so close your eye, and she just can't like do it properly. So they had to find an eye patch quickly. And I think that's just really, really funny. Makes her look even cooler.
Yeah. It's such a cool review. It's such a good like zoom. It's like just to slowly like put it over her eye. I like that a lot.
Man, I really like Gabriel. From what they give us, I just think he is a really good presence. I really need more from the character. Even if he's not so much a character, I just need more. Why is he so important to Ethan? And what is their relationship? I don't need him specifically to be like, oh, the ghost from Ethan's past. Like, I am more interested in the entity, to be honest. But like, you do have to flesh out all that shit with that girl, and like, that is a big part of the movie. And like, if they don't fully invest into that, I'm gonna be like, I still love both these movies, but like,
it's gonna feel a little like Dracula and Van Helsing and Van Helsing. No, I'm right. Like, if they don't flesh it out any further than here, it's like they have a history, but literally you have a line from Van Helsing at the end of that movie where he's like, some things are just better left forgotten, and then he kills him, and like you never find out like anything more about what that history was. And like you can leave it in that space where like it's just he's the thing that put Ethan in the IMF. Yeah. You have a vague idea of this woman. All right, leave it to your mind's imagination. Yeah. Rabbits fly. I really like. I don't know how much I need, but like it is. I don't consider it frigid because I don't even know who that person is. But we are seeing a random woman get killed on screen to hurt Ethan, and I'm like, I think it's weird in this movie. It's the stacking of those kind of elements.
It is just weird. So like I fully believe in this team to pay it off. It just is again, this is a part one, so I have to judge it as part one.
I like the performance of Gabriel. Gabriel feels very much as just a mouthpiece for the entity, not a fully fleshed out character to
Metatron.
Me. He's unlikable.
Yes.
Because he's comfortable in his smugness and his confidence of victory.
He hates.
But outside of that, he's not anything to me.
No, he's just like. I just like the dude. Yeah.
Someone put it really well where it's like, you can tell me all the backstory you want about this guy and Ethan, but you're not going to be able to change the fact that when those two see each other on screen, I don't feel the visceral hate that I felt when Lark and Ethan stepped onto a plane together in Fallout. Yes. And I'm like, that's true. Those two, just like the animosity that you felt coming off the two of them
that tension
was so strong. And like here, it's just not as impressive.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
There's a really good line in this movie that I really like, which is Grace says, Ethan says to Grace, your life will always matter to me more than my own. And she's like, why? You just met me. And he says, what does that matter?
Yeah. He's just a good person. He's a good dude.
I really like that. It's such a really great way to just like really just like, that's who Ethan is.
Oh yeah.
He is a person who will always put the life
Oh.
of the world over himself.
Yeah, like, so I don't remember specifically what happens, but like Grace goes through something, and then Ethan like literally almost dies, but he's like, Grace, are you okay? Right after something happened to him, and I'm like, Ethan, you're so good, dude. Oh my god.
Right, and like it's just that line is very good because it's just stating the thing we have known is true of Ethan's character the whole time. It just puts it right out there. This is Ethan. This is why Ethan Hunt is the character he is.
He hunts because he loves.
Another exchange that I really like that kind of pays that kind of like I think it's kind of an interesting way to pay off the beginning, which is welcome to the IMF to the guy carrying the Postmates, and he says where it's Shea Wingham and Shea's wingman. Thank you very much. Just wrote that. He said he's talking about like what would you do with that power? It's like I turn into like if it's something that threatens the world, then I'm on the world's side. Yeah. And like I thought I saw that I was like, that dude's a future IMF agent in the making.
Sure, yeah, 100%.
Like 100% that guy's joining the IMF in the next movie.
Angela Bassett couldn't be in this movie due to COVID stuff, but you could see a picture of her behind Carrie Elways when he's talking. I'm like, I wish she could be in the movie. Lovely.
I like Carrie Elways, by the way. I think he's very good.
Yeah.
I like the double betrayal by the NSA director and seeing Kittredge on the train.
Yes.
Yeah, Kittredge. The train sequence. Real quickly, I do want to mention the stunt in the movie, which is the jumping off the mountain, which is really great, really well executed, really awesome to see. I really like when Benji is leading Ethan up there, and he's like, just keep going. When do I start going down? Just keep going. And he gets there, and he's just like, just jump, just just jump.
You have a parachute, it's fine.
We get another McQuarrie Mission Impossible staple where the plan is imagined, and we see the fantasy sequence of how it'll go.
Thank you for reminding me. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's done that in all of his movies.
I love it.
To for different reasons. But yeah, it's always nice when it's
straight up. Do you think he meant to land in the train? Do you think, or was that an accident?
That was an accident.
Good. Again, all luck. He's 100% luck in his D&E slot. Because he killed that dude.
Okay, because you brought that specific beat up. Yeah. I did want to highlight. This is just one of those things. Like, we just went through all the Mission Impossible movies, and I can't recall this particular thing happening, and it just bothers me when it happens this particular way. Which is where Kirby's brother has a gun on Grace and says, kill her, to the guy in front of him to pull a gun out of his waistband and shoot her. And I'm like, your gun is on her. Shoot her. What are you doing? Like, if you wanted it to not be a bullet and that guy was going to, like, go in and, like, soft choke her or something, I'd be like, fine. But it's just...
He doesn't want to do it.
I was like... Okay, like, it's a very minor thing, but like, it really bothers me if a person says kill her while having a gun on a person just for someone else to pull out the gun and do it. And I'm like,
it is silly. Yeah, I agree.
I think Shea Wingham, by the way, has I kind of agree with you there, Sparkz. I think Shea has a line that I think personally rivals Hunt as the living manifestation of destiny, which is he is the mind for all intents and purposes, he's a mind reading, shape shifting agent of chaos.
Yes. Oh yeah, I love him.
Which is brilliant.
I want to shout out real quick Greg Tarzan Davis, who plays Dagus, who is the guy who's going with Wingham everywhere, and has one of my favorite lines outside of the one Brandon already mentioned in the movie, which is where he's like, "What if they always have a reason for going rogue?" And he's like, "Whose side are you on in this?" Well, when it comes to the end of the world, everyone's, I guess.
Yeah.
I really like that character. He doesn't get a lot to do, but I do really like him.
I'm glad he's always there with Wingham. Like I feel like there's like two sides of how they're viewing Ethan in each moment is being given to us just by his presence, and so having it stated at that point in the movie, I'm like, cool. I appreciate that.
Isn't there also? Go ahead.
I love how every time Wingham gets into a situation, he comes up and he starts speaking a foreign language. He starts speaking like Italian or French. Yeah. And then Wingham just goes, F it. Like, it's the train sequence essentially. He goes, Madame, monsieur, he's trying to explain in French, just calmly goes, nope. Back in the train, pop.
Yeah. In the party.
Guys at the party.
Yes.
He takes the guys at the party, and the dude's like, oh,
Dagus
okay.
Is like, What are you doing?
I guess we're doing this now.
Yeah, man, I think everyone's just doing a bang up job in this movie.
Oops, all
what else?
bangers.
Oops, all bangers.
I really like this movie, you guys. Oh, one thing. Sorry, there is actually something I'm not crazy about, which is I think Palm's turn is a little abrupt for me. I don't really get the sense that it's going to happen before Gabriel says, the thing tells me is you're going to betray us because he spared your life. And I don't get that sense in the next moment we see her, which is on the train, when she's killing a bunch of people. So like I just felt that was a little, as much as I like Palm, I think she's great in this movie, I just didn't find that turn very believable.
I could have maybe used a few more scenes with her where she's like dissecting what happened, and then she's like, you know, you can see the inner conflict within her, and then she eventually does go full like I'm leaving Gabriel. But I do agree with that, because it was kind of sudden. Like when you would think, like when Ethan takes the pipe and hits the brick, you think that's her face and her face would go splat, but then
Nope.
It's like he missed.
He don't kill. No, he don't. No,
He just walks away. It's like, huh. That's good.
That moment is very important because, as Ryan said, Ethan doesn't brutally murder people.
Right.
He's mad. He's delivering a statement at that moment. He's like, I need to go. Don't get up.
He avoids killing people whenever possible, unless it's Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah, which is a separate John Woo universe.
In which case, he'll shoot the shit out.
That's a diverging timeline. I hear you, Brandon, a bit. I'm fine with it because I didn't want her to have more inner conflict, because that's not the character she is. She is a raving mad woman. She is a assassin who works for like the worst people on the planet. And when she finds out that she's about to get killed, of course she would switch sides, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, like, first off, her body language and throughout the film is incredible. She's doing so much acting with just her face and her butt. I love her so much. I buy it because it feels like it's there for the entity kind of wounding itself. Like, this could have happened. It probably maybe wouldn't have. Like, it's trying to predict too many things.
Yeah.
So this could have happened maybe, but it's not a guarantee. But it becomes a guarantee because he betrays her. Mm-hmm. And once he betrays her, then like she has no allegiance. And so like it's the fact that he like leaves her to die that makes me buy her at that point helping Ethan.
Yeah.
Right. I want to be clear. It's not necessarily that I dislike that it happens. It is just that I wish that was a bit more clear. Either it is what Sparkz is saying, which I believe that's the intention, that it is Gabriel trying to kill her that turns her. I don't need, like what Ben says, a couple more scenes with her, because I think she's incredible and I think she's got enough screen time as it is. But as Ryan said, she is psychotic for most of the time that we see her, and I really like that performance. But prior to Gabriel attacking her, there is nothing in her body language to say that she is regretting anything that's happening in the moment, and so I needed just a bit more. That's really all I'm saying, is just a bit more there.
I agree with you. I think it's there to imply that the AI like screwed up.
Yeah.
Like it's a misstep, a miscalculation. If it hadn't made Gabriel do that, it wouldn't have gone this way.
Yeah.
Like it tried to be too predictive of behavior and it screwed up. I think that is part, like the only amount that it's laid there is that like obviously she feels some kind of feeling about being spared by Ethan, because we see the shot on her face. There's an emotion there, but I don't think I'm with you, Brandon. I don't think she's at any amount of like visual language betrayal. And because I do think the intent is supposed to be that the AI made a mistake in making Gabriel do this. That's why there's any signs of that change in her.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to suspect it until it happens. She doesn't think she's going to get betrayed.
But I hear what you mean. I just don't know how you convey that without it just being her helping Ethan the moment she sees him after that. Because like I don't know where you have the time between her getting betrayed by Gabriel and then helping Ethan like to show something changing. But I agree. Like I think it's not a part of who her character is until Gabriel does what he does, and then I think it kind of seals that like what the AI was afraid of is now going to happen.
It just feels, because of how we've seen her before, and I don't want to get too hung up on this topic personally, but like it does feel like how we've seen the character. It doesn't feel like she would have turned. I don't think she. I personally don't think she would have.
No, I agree. I agree. I think like this is one of those things where like I could say this about all of McQuarrie's Mission Impossible films, but with this one in particular, like it feels like there's a lot of like you really want to think about this and it's very smart and there's a lot of meaning to it, and then there's other things in the same movie that'll be like this is purely surface level.
Oh yeah.
And I think you can make an argument like how much is this supposed to be surface level, or how much are you supposed to think about this? I do feel like potentially the intent is to imply that the AI made a mistake.
That's how I read it.
Like the AI seals its own fate by trying to predict that, because Ethan wouldn't know where to look without her.
Right.
And so it sets itself up for its death because of that miscalculation.
Dead reckoning right ahead.
Okay. I actually think that's it. Looking at my notes, trying to parse through anything else that I possibly could have ever thought about. Ben,
So
you got
there is one thing I want to say, and everyone else pretty much said theirs. I want to talk about my favorite action sequence really quick.
Go ahead.
Heck yeah.
Because I was rummaging through was it the car chase, was it the train sequence? But I was like, nope, my favorite sequence was after the party with Ethan running through Rome in the dark, and the fake AI and the AI was modulating Benji's voice, and you see Gabriel on the bridge, and that whole thing, because that whole time was one of the greatest. The audience knows it, Benji knows it, but the guy you're rooting for does not know that he's listening to someone completely different, and it's just like,
and it makes a mistake. It pretends to make a mistake like Benji would. No, turn left. I'm sorry, I meant right. It does that like Benji would. We've seen Benji do that many times in these movies.
yeah, like it's like, oh, I had it in 2D. I had it like in the what was it, Fallout or Rogue Nation?
We fed Chat GPT the last 4 Mission Impossible movies, and AI Benji came out.
I think that you're right, Ben. That's such a good moment, because Ethan, because of that mistake, has no reason to think he's not talking. He's not talking to Benji.
Yeah.
It's such a good moment.
And also, I mean, the entire cast is doing a fantastic job. And I must say, credit to where credit is due, but Simon Pegg in that scene, just the pure panic. Don't get me wrong, the panic in the airport scene was fantastic, but the sheer panic, the sheer anger, and he's just like, oh God, it's not me. I can't get to my friend. And even when Luthor and Benji realize that they're being tricked by the AI, they take their laptops, they smash them. They're like, hell no, we can't trust anything that has a motherboard and a Wi-Fi signal right now. We're screwed.
Yeah.
It was one of the I don't want to say it's the turning point of the film for me, but it's definitely one of those scenes where you can feel the tension, you can feel that nowhere is safe. And I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't talk about it, but I think this has now my favorite mid-title card drop. When Grace joins the team, and I'm like, oh right, we haven't had the Mission Impossible sequence yet, and then we get the trailer for the movie, and I'm like, oh hell yeah. We haven't talked about the music, y'all. The music is so effing good in this movie. It is so good. That last movie was so good. Like, oh my god, I listened to this on Spotify, and I'm like, no, again, like you're not Giacchino, but like you are doing such interesting, cool things in all the different environments. I'm like, damn, what's your name, sir? I gotta remember it for next time.
Lorne Balfe, or Balfe.
Balthazar.
He's a great find for McQuarrie. I just want to say he's a great find for McQuarrie.
I will say I think the score is very good. I don't think it always matches the visuals on film well.
Sure.
There's one scene in particular that stood out to me, which is when the gang gets together in Venice and is essentially going to like their hideouts, like the moment after the whole car chase scene, and Ethan's reunited with them, and the score's just going like 10. And I'm like, we could go down to 7, y'all. Like, we don't need to be at the top dramatic layer for this particular moment.
Did you see how cool that hideout was?
It was okay.
Oh.
I felt like it was playing. It was playing to the full max a little more often than it needed to. I didn't feel like it upped and down as well as Fallout did, and Fallout was the same composer.
I'll agree with that.
One of the things, one of the moment I want to spotlight real quickly is after the car chase sequence, that I love so much, which is such a good car chase sequence. But afterwards, when he gets picked up by Benji and the whole team's together, I'll be honest, you guys, I shed a tear. Like I was just like, we got Rebecca Ferguson, we got Ving Rhames, we got Simon Pegg, we got Tom Cruise. The family's back together. We're the mission teams together, and I'm like, yeah, baby, we're back.
Back at the movies. See you at the movies.
Okay.
News team is back.
Anything else?
Train stuff's real cool.
Change stuff is real cool.
Yo, man.
Uh,
a lot of that was practical. Not like the whole train thing, but like they did launch a train off of a cliff. I'm like, damn.
I love watching trailers go over cliffs, so I'll just do that over and over and over again.
And it just kept going. It was crazy.
They built the train.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this could be my final thought, but one of the things I also really enjoy about this movie, especially between part 1 and part 2, is the heroes didn't lose in part 1. They know it's one of those films where you know that even though they technically won, they're not like resting on their laurels. Essentially, they know that this was just but a prelude for a larger storm that's on the way. Like they have to go find a submarine. They have to go do all this stuff to get to the entity and destroy it. But what I really liked, it wasn't like Endgame. Now, obviously, or not Endgame, excuse me, Infinity War. I mean, Infinity War, that was a gut punch of an ending. You're like, that had you, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And it's like, great, I have to wait a year. Whereas with this one, it's like, okay, the first half of the game is over. We have some time to digest. Now, what can we speculate or what's going to happen in part 2? The second half is on the way. What are the stakes? I just like how the actors or like the characters in this movie, they are not, I mean, they know they're facing a very dire situation, but it's not like literally the button's been pushed and the world is about to end.
That's a really good point that I wanted to kind of circle back to. I totally forgot about, which is I mentioned before that of the 3 part 1s that we've seen this year, this is my favorite, and it's because of what Ben just said. At the end of this movie, our heroes win. They get the MacGuffin. The MacGuffin that they were after this whole movie, they got it. There is more to the story. They have to find the submarine now, but the MacGuffin that was at the center of this movie is got by our heroes, and I find it feels like more of a complete movie because of that. I'm not saying that it is a complete movie. I just feel like it feels more like one. Across the Spider-Verse is the only other one that comes close. Fast X is very far away because that is clearly a movie without an ending. Yeah. And Across the Spider-Verse is very close. I really like the movie still. But this one, I was like, oh, okay. I can wait this year because I've got a complete movie here.
Maybe more.
Mm-hmm. Maybe more.
Yeah, we know there's reshoots that needed to be done and they're on hold. So we'll see. I also wanted to bring up that note, which is, how important the shot of Gabriel reaching for the key and not finding it is, because of it giving that sense of getting something over on, like, especially like this character who you've watched through the entity's instruction think he's ahead of Ethan at every turn, and to have him take that blow of losing,
sleight of hand magic. I
was going to bring it up next. The sleight of hand magic coming back from Mission Impossible 1 is really great, and having all the bits where Ethan did that was really nice. But yeah, I think it's a really rewarding capper on the experience to have it feel like the entity screwed up. And that's why Palm's character tells Ethan where to go. And Gabriel screwed up in being overconfident and loses the key. Yeah.
And just like in Lupin the Third, the detective screams, "Hunt!" or the Gabriel screams "Hunt" at the end. I'm like, oh, it's great.
I miss Alec Baldwin.
He got stabbed.
I do wonder if we'll get, because I didn't want to do this after Final Thoughts or anything. I do wonder if we'll get some of our like what I kind of feel like should happen is
the whole team,
the IMF
comes
as
together.
A unit would rally behind Ethan in this choice. Of like the IMF would be in agreement. It'd be nice to see like they don't have the support of any of the governments or anything like that, but the IMF supports them, and what we see that through is like Brandt coming back, or
Paula Patton,
or or even Maggie Q.
I'll take it.
And
guys,
and
I don't know if I would just physically be okay if Paula Patton and Haley Atwell were in the same movie together.
That might be the hottest movie ever made. Be a son.
Yeah, I think that'd be really cool to bring some of those characters back around. I know it's something that McQuarrie's flirted with before, is bringing back Maggie Q to the franchise and some of the others. So like, I think it would be rewarding. Even it doesn't need to be them. I don't necessarily want a cameo show, but what I do want is the idea that the IMF is like supporting Ethan on this big mission. The idea that they are rallying behind him when no one else
because
is.
this mission is, I mean, every mission is kind of like this small team takes care of it, but I think this mission is so big that the IMF has to get involved because it is worldwide.
I kind of want the way that Ethan is able to overcome all this is because the IMF as a unit is working around everything else, and like they're using all their resources to get Ethan where he needs to be, and that they're stepping up their shit just to make sure that they subvert not only all the governments but the entity itself. And I think that'd be really, really cool. And that's a good way to I think put the idea of like why the choice matters for all the IMF agents, who they are because of that, right? I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm so down with that idea, and it would play off really well with as you said, with the choice idea. And Haley Atwell makes the choice not to take the money, but to take the key back from Kittredge, because she up until this point had been in it for herself, but now she's made the choice to be in it for a higher power, which is the right side. Good.
So Kittredge is in there in betrayal of his country, or representing his country.
I think he's representing this,
but Elway's is also representing his country, but more self-interested, and they're both on the train, but they don't know each other's on the train.
Yeah,
no, I think they do know they're on the train, because I think Elway says that that someone is procuring the key right now. They were on the train together, but Elway has a more sinister purpose than what Kittredge knows about. He just thinks he's taking it for the CIA.
Yeah, I mean
that's how I saw it.
Yeah, I would say Kittredge is there to secure it for the U.S. and also to keep White Widow safe because they have an agreement. And the other guy's there because he's there is like he knows about Kittredge, but he's also there for nefarious purposes. At least that's how I was reading it too.
It's a little tough because I'm not sure, and like this was a little bit of my knock. I'm not 100% sure what the implication is supposed to be about Kittredge being there.
Yes,
partially because of Wingham's response to it. Which is like, pretend I'm not even, him giving I'm not even here. And he's like, well, great. If you're not even here, then you don't need to worry about moving to the front.
Okay,
of the train.
so here's how I read it. And again, like this is my read, but I don't think it's the actual read because I think it is confusing. I think Kittredge is not the bad guy, but he's out to get the key for himself. I do think Elway's, because Gabriel says it after he kills him, you would have told Ethan everything. I think Elway's was in like to give it to Ethan to try to save the world. Maybe against everybody else because he realizes how big this mission is or whatever. But again, I think it's so confusing. Like I'm not sure.
But Elway says, I can team up with the entity and we can get rid of. He wants to make a MAGA state.
No, I think he was just saying that though. But again, because what Gabriel responds with the entity said, "Oh, Ethan, you would have told Ethan everything." But again, like I don't think there's enough. I don't know.
He says you would have told Ethan everything to Palm, not to Elway's.
Yeah. That's why.
Oh, I think I'm mixing shit up.
But to the point of like them knowing about each other being there, I don't think they're necessarily fully in the know. I'm certain that they're not on the same page because Elway's didn't tell Kittredge where the sub is.
Yeah.
And so I'm just it's just a little weird. I'm not sure who's serving what angle in that. Elway's I think is pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
I think it's what he says.
Okay, sure.
But Kittredge's, I'm like, why does it feel like you're not here for the government?
It feels like Kittredge is like doing a bad thing here. That's how I read it, right? It felt like he's doing like he felt like in bad guy mode. I'm like, I don't know if you're in bad guy mode.
Because it's not weird for them to do deals with the White Widow. That's been done before. So that's not like a no-go, but there's something about the way it's presented in the film that feels like Kittredge was still not supposed to be there, not just because of like who he is, but like functionally he's doing a bad thing. But I'm not really clear on what that would be other than like I'm getting it for the government.
We're just getting bad vibes from both of them.
Yeah.
Well, I think Kittredge is the wild card. I do think I think they came onto the train together, and Kittredge is technically working for Elway's, but Elway's has a more sinister purpose for the key than what Kittredge knows about. But Kittredge just has an air of just sinisterness about him.
Absolutely.
So I think maybe that's throwing people off. That's throwing us off.
Well, it feels like they're setting up for something to be explained upon about Kittredge being there, that again, it just feels like it's more complicated than like he wants it for the US to be in control, because that's essentially mostly in a really dark and direct way what Elway's says he's after. So it does, by connection and association, make it feel like Kittredge is there for something else.
Maybe Kittredge is just a good guy.
Maybe. But why wouldn't he be honest with Ethan if the goal is that he also wants the AI destroyed?
That's true. Kittredge, though, I'm glad he came back. I've missed that guy.
No, it's cool to have his performance in it. It's a solid turn.
The Wikipedia does not give me any information to help me whatsoever.
Yeah, I just wanted to spotlight that because I remember
you're
coming
right.
away from the movie and I'm like, I don't totally get what is supposed to be the intent of Kittredge being on the train.
What's the motivation here? Yeah.
Because it feels like there's seriously something incomplete going on with it there. Like that Kittredge is after the key directly with the White Widow just because of the context of like Bayer being set up with the entity involved and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, there's something else here at play that I'm not entirely sure of.
Yeah. I'd have to rewatch it when it comes out on streaming.
All right. Final thoughts and ratings?
Sure.
I think it's really good. I think it's great. Part one aside, I think this is, these stunts continue to impress me. Tom Cruise, this continues hey, I just want to make really cool movies for you guys. I'm like, I appreciate that. I will give this, this is, of the three, it is my least favorite, but I'm still giving this an 8.5 because McQuarrie is an incredible filmmaker.
Sparkz, you want to go next?
Yeah, I will just spotlight some. These are just overall thoughts I had in my notes. That I really like the core of it. It's the question of choice versus inevitability in a battle between man and machine intelligence. And I think that parts of the film don't feel as confident and well crafted as the other two McQuarrie outings. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think a decent chunk of that is due to COVID, but I really feel that there. I feel like there are cracks that are present, and it is one of the things that makes me rub off against this movie. We obviously talked about the Ilsa Faust thing, and that's a big mark down for me. In general, I'll also highlight that just for me, I thought that I did think that some of the pacing was off and the movie's maybe a little longer than it needed to be. I can't tell you exactly what I would cut, but I did feel that. Other than that, I do think it's still an incredibly well-made movie. And having said all those critiques and everything, I still give it a 9. So it's still up there. It's not a bad movie. It's fourth in my rankings of Mission Impossible movies, but it's still a good movie. Mm-hmm. There are flaws, and I'm curious to see if part 2 changes how I feels about some of these things. I'm curious to see how part 2 feels also still with some of that COVID stuff, knowing going into it, knowing that is going to be a factor in the next one as well. So I hope it's not too much a detriment to it, but I do think it's well crafted. I really like the introduction of our new characters and the entity as an idea of something that Ethan is fighting. I just think some of the execution fell short.
Ben?
I've said before and I'll say it again. Each addition to the Mission Impossible franchise just keeps getting better and better and better. While this still isn't my favorite Mission Impossible, I would still say Rogue Nation holds that honor. I still think this is a fantastic movie, and by itself, the film still has merit. It's still a great ride. There's still stakes. I like how it ends, but also I like how it sets up for more. There are some questions in this movie that I would still like to have answered, such as what was Ethan and Gabriel's relationship before? Was he an actual thief before he joined the IMF? That's why he's so good at stealing shit. All this others, I'm assuming some of these questions will be answered, but even the questions I do have, they're not super burning. They're not at the forefront or they won't hinder my enjoyment of this movie. Rating wise, I would still give this a solid 9. It is still a fun time in the movies. It is still a great, and even with a 2:45 runtime, does not feel like it. I was at the edge of my seat. I was excited. I was engaged. And I know that once I do see part 2, I feel like I will be able to critique and look at these films as a whole instead of two halves, and maybe my score will go up or my score will go down. But knowing McQuarrie and Tom Cruise and how much love and effort they put into every single one of these movies, it's probably going to go up.
I pretty much agree with everything that Ben said, actually. I really love this movie. Like Ben mentioned, I did not feel the length personally. I get it, though. I totally get the idea. I totally get it. Anybody who did, totally valid. But I was on the edge of my seat. I'd like to live in this movie forever. I didn't want it to end. I was so enraptured in what was happening. I find Ethan Hunt to be such an endearing character. It's fun. It's funny. It's got some great action set pieces. Like I said, such a great car chase sequence. One of the best, if not the best, in the franchise. Ben, is someone blowing your nose? Not your nose specifically.
Yeah.
I really like this movie. That said, it is still a part one, and there are some issues that I have with it. I will still give it a 9.5. I'm going to give it I think a solid 9.5, with the caveat that should I look at the two of them together and decide it's a 10, I'm going to change the score to a 10. So that's my rating, 9.5.
Woo-woo.
All right, so that'll do it, guys. That's Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Dude, guys, you finally did it. I got through the entire Mission Impossible franchise. I got through the entire film franchise. You did it.
Hell yeah.
That's pretty cool. I'm really glad you were able to join us doing the Mission Impossible films. Obviously, it's also your podcast, so you would have no choice. But I'm very glad that after years of me telling you that you would like them, that you have finally watched them all. And I'm glad you like them more than anything
You are
else.
100% correctly. Well, actually, I don't like them. I love them.
And on that
I don't
note,
like Mission Impossible. I love it.
I choose it.
and with that, we've all joined the IMF. Welcome to the IMF, everybody. We'll see you next time for Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 2. Be exciting. All right, so that's it. So that's Cine-Files. That's Fake Nerd Cine-Files. We're not exactly sure what our next review is going to be, but stay tuned for what that's going to be. It's probably going to be They Cloned Tyrone, the new Netflix film that we are eager to check out. But stay tuned. Stay glued to your feeds. Check them out. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's plenty of other shows on this YouTube channel. If you like to get in touch, if you like to watch some of those, if you like this video, subscribe to this channel. There's Fake Nerds Watch, which is currently going through Star Trek: Strange New Worlds and Secret Invasion. No episode of that coming soon. Basement Arcade pause menu, our video game shows, Animation Station, new episodes coming of that, Miscellaneous, which new episodes coming of that if I can ever write them. The Conversation, which is an audio only show, unfortunately for you YouTube people. New episode is delayed. I apologize for that, but previous episode with Rachel Strange from the Narrative Labyrinth, that's up now. Fake Nerd Book Club coming back soon. We promised you it would, and it will. And that's not all of them. The Real Score, of course, our freshman show. You can stay tuned for new episodes for that, and of course our mothership show, the Fake Nerd Podcast. Guys, the Fake Nerd Podcast is going to be busy. If you're listening or watching to this on, you know what? No, the previous episode was Comic-Con. We talked about Comic-Con. There was a lot of news about Comic-Con. In the next episode, who knows what that's going to be? But you can join us Sunday mornings live every Sunday morning. We have a Patreon, we have a TeePublic if you want to support us financially, or you can find all of the links to everything I just mentioned on our website at fakenerdpodcast.com, which is also linked below. Of course, we support the strikes. But don't forget, we support both unions in their ongoing battle for a fair deal, where you can support all unions, of course, where you can support those unions fighting for a fair deal is linked below. More information and support is linked below, so please check those links out.
Hot labor summer, baby.
Hot labor summer indeed. All right, so that's that, guys. Thank you to everyone who watched this, but you can find us on Fake Nerd Podcast on all the social medias. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. You can also find me writing for CBR.com, AtomicGeekdom.com, and KaijuRamaMedia.com. Ben, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me choosing to accept the mission at BenMaga27 on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Threads. You can also find me writing for Old School Gamer Magazine, Fusion Gaming Magazine, GoNintendo.com, and playing Mary Frankenstein in D & Dark. New episodes out Wednesdays.
Did you say Threads?
I did.
Okay, it's so new. I know, blew over my head.
I know. I had to keep reminding myself. I was like, I have a Threads now. I have a Threads now.
That's okay. I do too. BT McClure on Threads. Sparkz?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at SPRARKZWitty, and only at those places. Nowhere else. Don't look me up anywhere else. Don't do it. Right?
Don't perceive me.
Don't find his OnlyFans. Ryan?
Don't perceive me. You can find me DJ Tony Snark. Just type it in. I'm sure I'm somewhere.
And until next time you see us, guys, mission accomplished.